afternoon. Good morning. I'm here with Greg Metz, the master distiller for Old Elk Distillery.
Yes.
With over 2 decades of experience in the distilling industry, or 4 decades?
Four
decades of
going on 4.5.
going back to Seagram's days. You know, one of the best distilleries in the world at that time, with the experimentation and the scientific approach they took to whiskey. So a pleasure, absolute pleasure to meet you in person. Thank you for taking the time. And just want to talk about Old Elk, but also your experience over the years. You know, how you're using that to make these amazing products right now with different mash bills, very interesting mash bills. As I was saying yesterday, we had this mash bill which was 51% rye and 49% malted barley. Fascinating for a single malt drinker, but at the same time there was an approach that went behind it. So if we can talk about that, starting with your how you got into it, and then
Certainly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I really got into crafting custom mash bills when I met Old Elk about 8 years ago. And at that time, Old Elk came to the plant as a customer and wanted custom mash bills rather than the 4 or 5 mash bills that we were producing for many other folks. Excuse me. And as such, they tasked me with creating a bourbon mash bill that was smooth and easy. To achieve that, I knew I had to get the malted barley content way up in the mash bill.
Okay.
And in the back of my mind, I also knew that all the mash bills that I produced over my career always had some degree of rye in it for a really nice spice characteristics. And to get that to carry through, you need about 15% rye minimum.
Okay.
To have that spice characteristic carry through into the distillate. So from there, it really became diverse math. We took the corn content down to 51%. In fact,
That's the minimum you have to have.
the minimum for bourbon, yeah. Factored in the 15% rye for the spice, and that left me room for 34% malted barley. So that's how we achieved that mash bill. Subsequently produced it, and the white distillate came out really clean, really nice. Through that, I knew that after it matured, it was going to be a really nice product. Couldn't really predict what the descriptors were going to be, but
once it's matured.
As such, there was came out with all the classic vanilla, caramel, oak characteristics, but it also had some really nice maple characteristics, at least for me, and then of course some of the spice characteristics that I want to achieve as well. From there, we went and moved on to a wheat bourbon and wheat whiskey category. One of the attributes of Old Elk and their DNA is that they really wanted to be different than everybody else on the shelf. And it subsequently is why they were requesting custom mash bills. So when we went to the wheated bourbon, we took the wheat content to the extreme for a wheat whiskey mash bill, or wheat bourbon mash bill. That mash bill was 51%, 45%.
45%.
About the max you can get in there, and still have room for malt for conversion. And wheat whiskey, we really took the same approach. We took the wheat to 95%, 5% malt.
Fascinating. So it's very interesting, and I have not really spoken to many people who can actually answer this question, and so I just wanted to know your view. So 5% malted barley is essentially used to provide the enzymes to allow for fermentation. Fermentation.
Yeah. In a cereal grain, it's primarily composed of starch.
Right.
And starch is the only fermentable part of the cereal grain. Starch is a very stable sugar polymer, if you will.
Right.
And you need the enzyme. There's an alpha amylase enzyme on the malted barley that comes from nature.
Right.
That breaks down starch into protections, small and long chain sugars, which is what you need to start the fermenting process once you add yeast.
So is it possible to just add, the enzyme itself rather than?
You can. There are actually commercial enzymes available. So if you choose not to use malted cereal grain or malted barley, you can certainly do that. It's not necessarily traditional, but it's not detrimental. thing about malted barley, however, is that the conversion reaction is almost instantaneous.
I see. Okay.
And when you use commercial enzymes, it's slow. So you risk, you obviously risk time in the processing.
Right.
Also, once you start converting starch into sugars, immediately you've started a war between the yeast and naturally occurring bacteria to digest that sugar into either acids or ethanol.
Right.
So,
That's what.
the longer it takes for that whole conversion to take place, increases your risk for bacteria contamination in the product. So a lot of pluses and minuses.
Right. So I know our time is very limited today, but we definitely want to make sure that we reach into your deep wealth of knowledge, and perhaps do a Zoom call, in the near future. And there'll be absolute pleasure to really dig deeper into a lot of these other things, like difference in where you age your barrels, how that impacts it, the kind of temperature or climate around it, provenance, if you will, things like that. So thank you very much, Greg.
Yeah.
An absolute pleasure.
Look forward to it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.